Hello and welcome back to another episode of Average Joe, the series where I'll be taking a look at a vehicle in War Thunder and telling you whether or not I believe it's worth the average player's time, or in this case, their money. In this episode, we'll be looking at the MiG-21 Lazur, a Rank 7 premium fighter in the German aviation tech tree sitting at 11.0 battle rating. And you're going to hear me talk about battle rating quite a lot in this video, because the battle rating of 11.0 on this aircraft is just painful. But with that out of the way, let's jump right into the weapon systems on this aircraft, because you got quite an array. To start off with the main armament, you are armed with the Gish-23L cannon, a 23mm gun with a very high fire rate but very low ammo capacity. Now, I've heard very mixed opinions on this thing. Some people love it, some people hate it. In my opinion, it's just kinda inconsistent. At least that's what I experienced while getting gameplay. Sometimes I'd one-shot somebody even though I hit something completely unimportant. Other times I'd be able to shoot somebody with 6 or 7 shots onto their wing root and do absolutely no damage. And in my experience, with the gun being mounted below the plane, it can be relatively hard to get your gun on target compared to planes of a lower battle rating that you might face. And in comparison to other aircraft at and around your battle rating that you'll be facing, your gun is just not very good. Basically, every match you're going to be fighting F-16s with Vulcans, and you just flat out don't have a weapon to compete with that. The one saving grace of this gun is the fact that it's not exactly your main line of defense. At this battle rating of 11.0, most engagements are going to take place with missiles, and, well, let's talk about your missiles. You have quite a few missiles that you can bring, but I'm really only going to be talking about 2 because they're, in my opinion, the only 2 worth bringing. That being the R-60MK and the R-13M1. The R-60M is a fairly well-known missile at this battle rating because it's the main all-aspect missile that you're going to see on Russian and German planes at this battle rating. It's okay. It's an all-aspect missile that can pull 30 Gs, which is really good. However, its range is abysmal, only being able to really chase a target when fired within 2 kilometers, and being unable to do anything further than that unless it's in a head-on engagement. Really, the best part about them on this aircraft is the fact that you can bring 6 of them, or you can bring 4 of them with 2 other missiles, which, let's talk about the other missile you're going to be bringing. The R-13M. This missile can only pull 20 Gs in comparison to the R-60, which can pull 30. However, it also has a much better range, being able to chase targets reliably up to 3 kilometers, unreliably up to 3.5. I recommend bringing 2 of these with 4 R-60s and then calling it a day on your missiles because, well, in comparison to your opposition, no missile you bring is going to be that good. However, in a full down tier, your missiles are going to be able to absolutely tear apart the opposition. Being able to use the all-aspect R-60M on the enemies that don't have flares is basically criminal. Whereas using the R-13M1 on targets that are trying to run away from you is pretty reliable, especially because the R-13M1 has a tendency to ignore flares. Overall, in my opinion, the missiles on this aircraft are just not that good when compared to aircraft at and around your battle rating that you'll be fighting. Keep in mind, yeah, you might have the ability to take 6 all-aspect missiles, but so can a lot of the opponents that you're going to be fighting, like the F-16, which have way better all-aspect missiles with the AIM-9L. Now, before we move on to the airframe itself, I want to talk about battle rating, because the battle rating is the downfall of this aircraft. Now, don't get me wrong, I personally think that the actual battle rating of 11.0 is fine for this aircraft. The problem isn't with the battle rating of the aircraft, it's a problem with the battle ratings that it's going to be facing. Basically, every match at 11.0 is a full up tier to 12.0, where you're going to be fighting F-16s, MiG-29s, Mirage 2000s, and there's basically nothing you can do to these aircraft. They're all faster than you, they all have better weapons than you, they're all more maneuverable than you, except for maybe the MiG-29. There's just nothing you can really do against these aircraft unless you catch them off guard. Now that my little rant about battle ratings is out of the way, let's talk about the airframe. Your aircraft is very fast. Not as fast as a lot of other aircraft that you'll be facing, but still very, very fast, to a point where if you do not know how to control your own speed, you're eventually going to break your wings in a straight line. To prevent this, it's very good to learn how to do half afterburner, which is very simple to do. All you have to do is go to 100% throttle, and then with your scroll wheel, push it up once. This will turn on your afterburner, but it will not be using nearly as much fuel as your afterburner, and it won't give you as much thrust. If you do this, once you start getting to the speeds where your wings would normally brake, they won't anymore. You'll sit just below that speed where they'd normally brake. However, once you get to actual combat and you start maneuvering, you start draining speed, you should probably go back to full afterburner again to try and maintain some of that energy. Speaking of keeping energy, you don't do that very well. You drain speed extremely quickly in this thing, which can actually help you. If you see somebody coming very fast after you, you can drain your speed extremely quickly and have them completely overshoot, giving you usually a free shot. However, this plane has a problem with getting its gun on target when at low speed, so don't exactly, rely on this. Now, I will say at medium to high speed, you are relatively maneuverable, but you do gotta keep in mind that at high speed, if you try to turn too sharply around Mach 1, your wings are going to come off without warning. Overall, with your around average maneuverability, you're very quickly draining energy, and your unreliable weapons, this thing, when compared to 11.0 to 12.0 jets, is just not very good at all. But compared to 10.0 jets, which you're not going to fight often, but you're able to, yeah, it's basically a seal clubbing match. In a down tier, this thing is really scary to see on the enemy team. Really, your only threats end up being phantoms like the F4E and F4F, and something like the F5E, which, if it gets behind you, it's basically impossible to shake off unless you really dump all of your speed. And despite all the negatives, I surprisingly really enjoy playing this jet. Even in up tiers where it's basically impossible to outmaneuver or outgun your opponents, you can still outplay them. But I'm not taking that into account when I talk about whether or not this vehicle is worth it. But if you do get good with this thing, it is extremely fun to play. Overall, this jet is just not good. Not good at all. But if you can learn to play it, it can be extremely fun to outplay somebody that has all the advantages over you. So, there's that, I guess. Now, before we get into whether or not it's worth it, which, honestly, I doubt I even have to tell you, let's talk about what comes in the pack, because yes, this is another pack premium. So, for $70, you're going to get the MiG-21, 2,500 Golden Eagles, and 20 days of premium. And I'm gonna say now, if you do decide to buy this pack, please put those Golden Eagles into upgrading your crew's G-tolerance and stamina, because if you do not, the pilot is going to black out instantaneously. With that out of the way, do I think that this vehicle is worth the $70 price tag? Not a chance. No. Not in any world is that worth it. Do I think that this vehicle is worth it on sale? No. Again, it's just not a very good vehicle. If you want an aircraft to grind out the German air tech tree, please get the G91R4. It's better in basically every way other than the fact that it's not a rank 7. Please, just don't buy this. And with that shocking conclusion out of the way, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please let me know if there's any videos that you'd like to see in the future, and have a good one.